So welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at, yes, it's finally here, Storms of Steel 3rd edition from Academy Games. So this is part of their Conflict of Heroes series. They have Awakening the Bear, which is the original. This was the follow-up. They also have Guadalcanal, which is Pacific, Marines and all that. But this one has been long in the works. This is actually the 3rd edition. I don't think the 2nd edition ever even came out because the system's gone through a few revisions whilst this was kind of in the works. So finally, it is here. So let's kind of crack it open and see what we've got. Hallelujah. So, one of the big things is that they've got these new game trays in here. Now, Guadalcanal had one singular large tray that kind of fit everything in it. Here, these are 3 different separate trays. And these are actually, I'm going to open this up. They're from the company Game Trays. And they do, you can go on their website and they do custom trays for like all the major board games, but they've gone out of their way to get these nice kind of embossed, yes, it's Conflict of Heroes, Academy Games on them. You line up your counters in these, and they have these kind of ruts in them for you to kind of line them all up. And there's a little space in here to keep your dice or your little markers as well. So you get 3 of those. 2 of them, these are identical, where they have kind of 3 rows for counters, well, yes, 6, 3 on each side, and then there's space in the middle. Those 2 are the same. This one is different. This one holds your cards in it. So there's 2 big empty spaces for the cards. And then there's only 2 rows for counters in those. We'll look at the cards in a second. The game comes with 2 6-sided dice, and it comes with 2 10-siders. And this is one of the new parts of this game. This is what 3rd edition is all about. So these aren't regular 10-siders. These are custom. What you'll see is here it says 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. And if you've played with any D10s, that's not normal. And on the other side, it has 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 1, 6, sorry. So this isn't your usual D10. It doesn't go up to 10, and the numbers are somewhat irregular. And there's a couple of these in here. What these are for, so it used to be in the old edition, you'd activate a unit and you had like 7 activation points that you could use to move, attack, do all different things. The big change in this game is when you perform an action, actions have costs. And you roll the dice, and I believe if the dice is greater than or equal to the number rolled, you can perform that action. So as you might do one of the actions that costs a lot, it's harder to do, and if you mess up that roll, that's like the last thing that they can do. So it can be that you can continue to do a bunch of things if you get some good rolls, as your units do something heroic. Or they can only do 1 or 2 things, and it's a bit more limited to what they can do. There's just some unknown in how far you can activate things. That's one of the big changes in this. We have, well, let's take a look. These markers, you get 5 of these to mark your units on. And those can go just like in one of those little tray bits there. We have also the mission booklet, and I always like these games because they give you, there's 16 missions just in the core game, which is very, very nice. I like that they do that. And some of these missions you'll see, these are all 2 players mostly. Some of them say 2 to 4 players. Some of them are 2 to 4, 2 to 4, 2 to 3 players. A couple of these you can kind of join together to make one huge mission. So there's a little bit of flexibility, or you might be at a convention where there's more people and you want to kind of play with more people. So there's some stuff you can do with this. How well the 4 players go, I'm not entirely sure, but I'd be interested to try it out. Some of the multiplayer scenarios in some of these games seem forced, but I'm always willing to give it a go. But the mission book is really, really nice. You've got the whole map and setup on the right-hand side, and then all the details on the left-hand side. And then this is that one that you could combine. Here's this mission, and there's the mission from the previous page. You just stick them together. But this is very nice. Everything that I would expect from an Academy Games game. And then you've also got your big chunk of history as well for Kursk, which is nice. A little introductory scenario at the beginning. So that's just the mission booklet. So you got yourself 16 missions in there. We like to see that. Almost 40 pages there. With the cards, they'll be very familiar to you from the cards from the previous editions. So you have the different weapon cards, which are kind of here for reference. Oh, some of these are veteran cards. So there's veteran cards, which have this little yellow star on the back. And then you got your weapon cards. So the weapon cards are things like grenades, Molotovs, demolitions, IL-2s, Strugers. These are just additional things that give you kind of, here's your scatter, things like that. These are mission kind of sensitive, so you won't use those in all your missions, or some things will say, hey, you've got some grenades, but it'll tell you here. So someone's got a couple of veterans in this mission, for example. And in other missions, it'll tell you, oh look, you'll have an IL-2, as well as all your other stuff that you've got in these missions. So you don't use all of these all the time. These are just kind of some extra bits and pieces for reference. Those are the weapons. So the veterans would it also say to you, hey, you'll get these couple of extra veterans. And it tells you, here's some extra additional things that you can do that would normally kind of break the rules. So those are just a little bit of additional pieces, bits and pieces to your forces, which you'll use in only certain situations. What we have here is just some Bewerbung for awakening the bed. So these are the battle cards, and you'll draw these and these again. A spent unit may take 1 free action of any cost. These are again just different bits and pieces that you can use on your turn or on an kind of out of turn, depending on what it is, and they'll tell you what you do on them. And there's more of these battle cards. These are all, I believe these are all battle cards. There's a whole bunch of these. So some of these are really helpful and can get you out of a tight spot, but they're not massively broken. You don't get a whole huge hand of them. They just just gives you a little extra. Oh, I can do one extra thing over here, or maybe I can get one tiny advantage over here, and then it's kind of done with. You usually get like one of those a game, but those are just a neat kind of little extra that you get in it. So we have here. These are the new kind of play boards. Let me make sure I get them right around. Okay, so. You've got your mission round number and your victory point track, nice and easy. And then they do give you 4 of these player boards if you do want to play the 4-player game. Most of you will do the 2-player ones. So it tells you it's your command action points on here. And then this is your spent check. So I guess you have to roll under the number maybe. For each cap spent, lower the action cost by 1. Okay. Yeah, so you have to roll over the number that you... no, under the number you need, I think. I'm not sure. But either way, you make the die roll, and it gives you the percentage chance of you making that roll, and you can spend caps to increase your odds in making those rolls. So that's where the big change in the system is, rather than just, I'm spending caps to do a thing, your spending caps to increase your odds on a die roll. So some people may like that, some people may not. The nice thing with 3rd edition is it's all entirely backwards compatible. If you play with that system and you don't like it, you can just use the old system. No big deal. This is more kind of Bewerbung for all their other games. Big fan of this one, big fan of this one. Grant likes that one, and this is their brand new Kickstarter that just got released as well. So we have some play aid cards. Here tells you all the unit information, combat modifiers, combat action turn, and then the cost of those as well. And then you've got your terrain effects chart. So I only get 2 of those. And then this is the rulebook. 3rd edition rulebook is about the same as 39 pages. And it's all a rule. It's fairly dense. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of blank space in these rulebooks, but the texts are large, and there's a lot of diagrams. So many diagrams. And I actually really enjoy Academy Games' rulebooks. To me, they're usually very clear and fairly easy to read, especially with all that stuff. And they tell you, the first thing they do is Mission 1 setup. They want you to get it up and just read through the rules and kind of play it. So that's kind of what I recommend as well, because it's not a complex system, and it's very fun to play. So, rules, and the rest of the box here should be boards and counters, and it is. Okay. We got a jumper. Alright. So the game comes with, let's open these up. Oh. These are bifolds, and they're single-sided. But this is like, one mission will be played on this. And you can kind of see that there is a hex overlay. But it's mostly corners with a faint joining line. It's not obtrusive in any way. But you get that kind of semi-realistic vibe that you'd see in things like Old School Tactical and the other previous editions of this game. Just nice boards. There are 5 boards that it comes with. So here you've got, he says, not being able to open it. You've got what looks like a big farm with some fields and a road. And when you see a lot of terrain, ooh, that's interesting. Nice, okay, we'll get to that in a second. So there's actually only 4 boards. If I could open it. This is a huge week. So the fighting in this is going to be probably quite tight, as you can imagine. This, I was mistakenly under the impression this was a board. This is a punch board with very large pieces that you'll put onto, and there's overlays just to kind of modify the text. It's a huge hill. And these are double-sided, so, oh look, there's a huge town instead of a wheat field. There's a bunch of these. These punch out very nicely. Toss that. So that's cool. They give you some variation on your terrain to shake up the boards there as well. So that's very nice. Happy with that. So there's 4 boards and then a multitude of different terrains. And the last thing we've got here are, I think there's 3 or 4 sheets of counters maybe. Stick all those in there. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 4 sheets of counters. So we have some admin-esque counters here. So we have some smoke, some mines, those are trenches. I think on the backside those are pillboxes and different things. Control markers, action points, command action points, and just some admin markers over here. And then on the back, so we have those pillboxes, more pillboxes, barbed wire. At the back of the mines tell you how bad the attack is. Some of the attacks are worse than others. So here you have to roll greater than or equal to 9, or it's greater than or equal to a 7, so these are very bad, hard to roll this kind of a thing. These ones are dummies, so there's always a slight unknown in a lot of the things that happen in this game, something that I personally enjoy, because it keeps it entertaining. One of the other best parts of this game, and truly it is one of the best parts of this game if you ask me, these are your kind of, I don't know what they call them, these are your kind of damage markers. So there's 2 sets. one for infantry and one for vehicles. And what happens is when you take damage, you have to draw blindly one of these infantry counters if it's like a team or an individual. You basically draw one of these, and then you look at it secretly, so your opponent doesn't know what they've done to you. And you stick it underneath the counter that took the damage. So for example, let's say we've got our little rifle squad right here. If he becomes panicked, what that does, you'll see, is this 4 becomes a nothing, and this down here becomes a nothing. And then his values, this is increased by 1 to a 12, and this is decreased by 2 to a 2. But the opponent doesn't know that, so you put it face down underneath them, so that you're like, oh, these guys like can't do anything. And then you have to roll, on their rally check, you have to roll greater than an 8 to get this removed. So you're shooting back and forth, but you don't know quite what you've done to your enemy. You know you've done something, but it could be something really terrible. One of those is destroyed, so it is possible to auto-kill anything. I mean, it's a 1 in 16 chance, or 1 in 20 chance, I believe. But it can happen. Some of them are just like unnerved, where it's effectively a nothing, basically. Some of them are stunned, where they just can't do anything. Some of them are cowering, where they just basically go to ground. And they actually have their kind of defensive values increased, because all they're doing is just hunkering down, and it's hard to kill them off. So there's some really interesting stuff. And the same thing with the tanks over here. You blow the turret off and it destroys them off. But it's a similar type of thing. Got all these light damage where nothing happens. You basically bounce the shot. But these are just a really fun aspect of this game, and I really enjoy these. It makes the game just very fun. On here we also have all of our Hanamags, different forms. You got some captured T-34s, and then for the Ruskies, you've got KV-1s, T-70s, you got some Lend-Lease M3s as well, and a couple of T-70s over here as well, and some T-34s up top. So that's all of those on there, and this is like a reduced side on the back. Okay, so I'll put those over here, and we have more Russians. So you have all our different rifle squads. You got some snipers, submachine guns. We got some heavy tanks, Su-122s, T-34s. You have your IL-2 over here. You got Lend-Lease Churchills. Obviously a crap ton more T-34s, and you got the big old Su-152s that are going to come in the late war. Well, in the latest scenarios probably. Anti-tank guns, anti-tank rifles, machine guns, and a ton more rifle units as well up here at top. So that's awesome. Very excited for those. And let's just check on the back. Yep, just the reduced versions of all of those. Okay, great. And the last counter sheet are the Germans. And so again, heavy machine gun teams, back 38s, infantry, grenadiers, some little sniper units over here, and the tanks. This is what you come to this game for. You can play Awakening the Bear, and it's a lot of infantry, there's some tanks. Here we're looking for all the tanks. So we have, alright, we got Panzer III Js, Panzer III Ls, Flampanzer, so you got Panzer III with a flamethrower on it. Who doesn't want to use that? You got Stug 3s, Panzer 4s, Panthers, yes, Tigers. Looks like you got a Pioneer, like a recovery unit here. Marder 2, Marder 3, Mountier, just a little kind of half-track truck. And then you've got Hanamag mortars, and Hanamags with a little gun on them. 7.5%, I say little, okay. And the reduced side of this, oh, and there's a little Stuka here as well. And these are the reduced side of all those. So, These counters are really cool. I really like them. The facing on these counters is important. That's why they put this little kind of green marking up top here. That tells you which way they're facing. This is a game where facing is important. That's what this 11 and 12 down here are. It's the defensive values from direction of fire, basically. And at least I'm pretty sure that is. Let's see, we can check, because there's a couple different things. Oh, that was on the plate, wasn't it? Yeah. Also, it's defensive against soft and armored. When it's their upper is their flank defense, and the bottom is the front defense. Yes. So if you're attacking it from the front, they have a 13 defensive value, because they obviously are in their field of fire. If you're attacking them from behind or the flanks, then they only have a 10 defensive value, because they're looking this way, harder for them to concentrate as much firepower back and forth. And then they have these two attack values. 3, good against soft targets, infantry. 0, bad against hard targets, tanks. Effectively. Whereas if you look at the KB1, 5, decent against infantry, that's pretty damn good. 9 against hard targets, that's okay. But then if you compare that to something like the Tigers, they have a 12 against hard targets, and a 19 and a 21 defensive value against tanks. So things get pretty hairy with those big tanks going on. But all in all, that's basically everything in this box. This edition has been a long time coming, and what I mean by that is second edition was a long time coming, and it was a long time coming because they were tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it, and they tweaked it so much that they were just like, sod it, we'll call it third edition because it is that much different. But you get a lot of game in this box. There's 16 missions to play through, and then there are rules for generating your own missions as well. At least under Works. I don't know if that comes with these, but making those would not be difficult. There's like a whole firefight generator for Awakening the Bear, and I hope at some point that they get something like that for this one. But that's Storms of Steel 3rd edition. Comes in a beautiful box with some of the, this is iconic artwork as far as board games are concerned. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Finally, it is here. Storms of Steel Kursk 1943 from Academy Games. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com. Thanks for tuning in.